book was mostly a prop anyway. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is London Montgomery. My pronouns are she, her, and fey, fair. And the last time I was here, it was to celebrate the life of Dan Henkel, my father-in-law. As most trans folks, for most trans folks, a father-in-law might not be high on the list of people to come out to. But one year not long ago, I made my annual trip back to Indianapolis from Phoenix with my wife Sarah and our daughter Hannah, and I let Dan know about me. And Dan and Beth never skipped a beat, celebrated and loved me as they celebrate and loved the rest of their family. When we finally decided to move to Indiana, before we even settled in, Dan reached out and asked me to speak here and gave me the space to lift up people like myself. So if you've had the privilege to know him, and the question is today how you can best welcome and include anyone in your community, simply remember the way Dan Henkel treated you, and you've pretty much got it. Today, we celebrate the end of Transgender Celebration Week, and tomorrow is Transgender Day of Remembrance, where we celebrate the good work of those who built a world where I have the opportunity to speak like this, openly and truthfully. As the time of writing, I am alive and thus disqualified from remembrance, so instead, I will be sharing the life of civil rights activists, defenders of women's autonomy, and transgender liberators. In addition, for today's theme, I was tasked with providing a guide to welcoming and supporting transgender and non-binary people into your community as empathetic and effective allies and friends. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity. And I think one interpretation of that theme is respectful language, and Sarah mentioned it. Thank you very much, Sarah. Up-to-date terminology, language to avoid. Good communication is the foundation of any new relationship. Those are big topics. And if you're starting from the top, that question can feel overwhelming. The details of that work of independent research or formalized classes might be the best fit for that sort of study, and both of which I'd be happy to point you towards after today's service. But even if you don't have those tools yet, it's okay. I come to the Unitarian Universalist Church through my wife and her side of the family, and I have seen on countless occasions this community has the resources, the skills, the ability to be kind, be human, and welcome people in. I find it easy to tell when somebody is giving their best effort to be respectful when speaking to someone new, and it has been demonstrated to me in this space and spaces like this time and again. If there is one definition I can give you, one thing to take home and guide you in conversations with transgender people in the future, it's self-identification. Self-identification is the fundamental right that you get to use the name of your choosing, the language which you are referring yourself to the clothes you are most comfortable in, and otherwise present yourself in a way that fully uplifts you. If we agree on self-identification, the idea that you have the right to tell others who you are, and that this same rule applies to everyone, trans, non-binary individuals, two-spirit, queer, agender, cisgender, everyone, I'm confident that we can solve any concern or disagreement of safety or control or freedom, starting from a place of mutual respect. I'm good at lists. This is my third time speaking in front of kind individuals like yourself, and when I sit down to write, I find myself writing lists. Trans Day of Remembrance is a day to honor those who were lost to us too soon and too often surrounded by injustice, hate, fear. With that, my first instinct is a list, a litany of all the awful things that have happened this year, all the people who should have had more time, examples of individuals and communities who have been unjustly destroyed in a world that is sad and exhausted and not to be trusted. Fear is easy. It is pure and effective. Fear divides us, sorts us, and separates us. That was the way my church did it. A different church than this one that I grew up with, that was full of cautionary tales of wicked temptation, ignorance, and fear. An instinct I am still inclined to this day. And it is these moments I go back to the words of my former therapist in Arizona, Dr. Misha Cohen-Peck. The four mantras she gave me are this: I am whole and complete. I am all I need to be. I am worthy. and I'm lovable. And in one of our sessions, I brought that anger, that helplessness in search of an answer. Perhaps she had a secret fifth mantra. And in that session, she had me go home and instead look up Pauli Murray. Do y'all know Pauli Murray? I didn't know Pauli Murray. And whenever I'm asked, how can I be a good ally, they're my first thought. Let me tell you about Pauli Murray. A 100-year-old story about a miraculous human being at the intersectional center of the ever-present conflict between the pure and the other in this country, who through self-identification always found a way to help in a world that was always pushing back. And just like anyone's work, anyone's self-expression, it starts small, simple. In 1913, Pauli Murray was just a kid who wanted to wear pants to church, but was told to wear a dress on Sundays. But as soon as they had that first sliver of freedom to do so, they began dressing and acting as they pleased, spending their youth riding the rails, going by names like Pete and the Dude. They literally called themselves the Dude. That is powerful transmasculine energy. A note on identification. Today, the Pauli Murray Institute encourages that they, he, and she pronouns be used interchangeably to describe Pauli Murray to, quote, embrace the individual and fluid nature of gender, which I like very much. Now, in 1938, Pauli Murray was rejected from the University of North Carolina based on the color of their skin. When they wrote to Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who had just received an honorary degree to UNC and referred to it as a liberal bastion, Pauli Murray received no reply. So they wrote to the First Lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, who did reply that the South was changing, but that Pauli Murray shouldn't push too fast, which did not stop them. Pauli Murray went to the press, wrote poems, pursued a degree in law at Howard University so that they may help change the laws that would deny access to higher learning on the basis of race. Later, Pauli Murray was arrested for refusing to move to the segregated section of the bus, and when Pauli Murray was placed in a cell crawling with bed bugs, she was told to be quiet or be thrown into the dungeon. Upon release, they went on to write, as their senior thesis, work that would be included in Plessy versus Ferguson 10 years later, overturning segregation. Pauli Murray graduated at the top of their class at Howard, which historically meant automatic entrance into Harvard. Pauli Murray was denied to a university again, but this time based on their gender. Instead, they go to UC Berkeley and graduate, then to Yale for their doctorate. Yale would later go on to open the Pauli Murray College in 2016. But back in the 1940s, no law firm in New York would hire a black female attorney, even one with multiple degrees in law. So instead, Pauli Murray set up their own law firm. One day in court, they represented a sex worker, and an eyewitness for the prosecution identified Pauli not as legal counsel, but as the prostitute they claimed to see performing a crime. Because how could someone who looks like Pauli Murray possibly be a lawyer? But they still practiced. And in 1961, they would help found the National Organization of Women and ensure that demands for equal protection under the law existed to both race and gender. In 1973, when Pauli Murray's longtime partner, Irene Barlow, died of cancer, Pauli had no way of expressing to her friends and loved ones what their relationship meant. As so often history erases queer relationships, Pauli was seen by loved ones and writers as just losing a close friend. And when that tore them up, Murray searched for an answer, and they found they needed a better spiritual understanding of life and the beyond. And that search led them to become the first African-American Episcopalian priest who was later sainted in 2012. When I said that I would be celebrating civil rights activists, defenders of women's autonomy, and transgender liberators, I meant one miraculous person. So when I felt helpless and mad, why did Dr. Peck send me to Pauli Murray? Because when they saw the injustices in the world, Pauli realized, quote, I needed a weapon, a skill, which is the advice I share with you today. If you want to be an empathetic and effective ally to friends and transgender and non-binary people, stop everything you're doing and become a lawyer, a priest, and a poet and go fix the world. Also, become a professor. I mentioned that they were tender to Brandeis, right? Okay, good. So do all that, get back to me, and next year we'll pick up there, blessed be. No, that's probably not what Dr. Peck was trying to tell me. What I actually got from discovering this impossible person was a reminder that as long as you know who you are and share that person with the world, that you have the ability to affect positive change in so many ways, that you can learn new things and grow, adapt, research, and apply new skills at any stage in your life, and then that work you do counts. That no matter how big the adversary or small the community, the work you do can lead to lasting, powerful change for good. How can you be an effective ally to trans people? You already are one. Take what you are passionate about, what drives you, use that to help others, and you have created the community you're looking for. Do not lose confidence. Do not lose hope. Hopelessness is an intentional tool. We're taught that the walls are too tall, the problems are too big, and the people are too different or distant to connect to. It's a tool wielded against you to keep you quiet. And Trans Day of Remembrance is a loud celebration. Like Pride, it is a riot, an opportunity to remember those who brought us this far. And I'm so grateful to Polly Murray, to Marsha P. Johnson, to Sylvia Rera, to Reed Erickson, and the countless other trans and gender expansive activists that have made my life as today possible. On Trans Day of Remembrance, we celebrate the radical idea that you can be proud of who you are today, imperfect and beautiful. Proud of your strength, proud of the work you have accomplished, and proud of the work you will do today and tomorrow. Because you can do that work. Maybe not like at Polly Murray level with 3 law degrees. And I say that, maybe you do. This is a talented congregation. There are probably some multi-doctorates out there. But regardless, I believe we have the best chance ever that everyone here today has the ability to make life better for the people we love, and that's because of the work that came before us. I truly believe that we have access to better communication today, better information than ever before. And it's getting much harder to erase history. And only through queer and neurodivergent stories was I able to discover myself. And it is my sincere hope that I get to continue sharing that message to everyone I can. We can share experiences and we can share our victories loudly and joyfully. For example, this year in Indiana, 15 of the 18 anti-LGBTQ pieces of legislation were defeated in Indiana, including don't say gay laws in schools, the kind I grew up with in Arizona, and were still on the books until 2019. Some laws that were passed, such as SB 480, barring children from life-saving medical care, were largely overturned to the courts thanks to the work of the ACLU. In Bloomington next week, I have the privilege of sitting down with the Human Rights Commission to finalize our proposal to City Council for a safe haven resolution, like the one that they did in Kansas City, Missouri, protecting trans people in my community against persecution and prosecution. That's another one to take home with you. If you want to be the safe haven you've asked me to direct you towards, make UUI the face of Indianapolis legislation that actively protects transgender individuals. And that's just one example. I promise you, you have specific ways to help. Be proactive. There's nothing too big or small. Affect legislation, absolutely. But welcome people into your places of business. If you have family members around the dinner table next week that don't feel safe, you can be the person that helps them feel safe. Let them know that they are whole and complete, they are worthy, and they are lovable. Dr. Pett gave me one more mantra. That's right, there was a secret 5th mantra. You are whole and complete. You are all that you need to be. You are worthy, you are lovable, and you matter. I came here today to tell you that last one. You matter. When you show the world who you are powerful. You are strong enough to learn something new, to enact meaningful change in the world, and take pride in what you have accomplished. No one person can do everything except Polly Murray, but you can do something that matters. Remember that the boxes we've been put into and have been around for a very long time, our work is not new, and change has always been possible, and hope continues to live. And even in times and places where love is forbidden and unspoken, it still exists. And that while we are unique, we are not alone.